Hello, and I'm very pleased to welcome Akhila Deshpande for the very first video podcast of 2021. Welcome, Akhila.
Thank you, Parul. It's been a pleasure.
Quick introduction to what Akhila does. She's the head of marketing and PR for Prime Venture Partners, which is an early stage venture investment fund. And some of its well-known investments are MoneyTap, which is I think needs no explanation. MyGate, which is a security system for houses, as is evident, and MFine, which is a telemedicine company, which is again quite evident from the name. And we'll be talking to Akhila about the trends in startup communication and how do founders in early stage setups behave towards communication, which I think would be great insights for our audience. So my first question to you, Akhila, is that how does communication for early stage companies differ from communication of well-established startups?
Okay, firstly, I think PR doesn't often come in the high list of priorities for many founders at very early stage. They are rightly very busy in, concentrating more on developing their product, building their team, getting ready to launch their product in the market. So PR by default isn't on their top of mind priority. There are hardly about 4 to 5 people in the company, including the founders. I think that's where we come in. I think as an investment fund, when we do invest in early stage startups, getting them ready for market and getting the product out is one of the areas where we help the founders with, and that's where my team also comes in to play. It is difficult. Early stage startup PR is very tough. You have just had seed stage fund, that too quite very little bit. You are spending that on product development and team expansion. There is really little money to do anything in marketing, advertising or PR or whatever. And then the brand is not known at all. If we are lucky, you would have some known founders, but if the founders are just out of college, then you don't know the founders, you don't know the brand. And I think, but the strongest thing which early stage startups have is the product itself. And the market in which we operate. So a lot of PR for early stage startups is about educating the press and also our audience, the startups audience, about what the product is about and which sector we operate in. And that I think that is tough, but you do it 6 months, 12 months consistently, and then you get it right. So there are no shortcuts.
In a way, it's like category creation for many firms which you're doing. You get them.
Absolutely. I think a very good case in point was MoneyTap itself. I know you mentioned MoneyTap. When we launched MoneyTap, there was no concept of a personal credit line for a retail customer. Everybody knew personal loans, which are very expensive, and as a society, we don't really like to take credit. Even if we have taken loans from banks, it's not something which is discussed very openly. People shy away. They don't want to say that, oh, loan leke bike liya hai, or whatever it is, right? So a credit line per se as a product was not very well known for retail customers. So it was category creating in itself.
Yeah, you mentioned MoneyTap, and recently Economic Times, I think ET Sunday carried a full story on the challenges of these kind of micro personal loans, which are very small amounts, and how a lot of fly by night operators are existing. So I read MoneyTap's in fact view on that. So what has it been like to create this entire concept of micro personal loans?
I think when it started, MoneyTap, when it started, I mean, I don't no longer work with MoneyTap, so we have a very, um, the way we work with startups is we get them on board when they are early stage, when we fund them, and then we handhold them for 2 years or so. And once they are beyond Series A, Series B, and then when they expand, that's when they move on to find an agency or find an in-house communication person, because we have the next set of startups to work with. But yes, I was very much involved in launching MoneyTap, and at that time Small retail loans were kind of unheard of. You don't ask a bank for a loan for 15,000 rupees, right? But there are sections in the society, salaried class themselves, who would need this small amount for for some emergency. Could be it could be children's education fee, it could be a medical expense which they were not foreseeing. It could actually be to help a friend. I used MoneyTap myself when I was doing up the interiors of my home. And when even that 10,000 rupees matters to you, right? And you don't want to ask your friends, or you don't want to ask anybody else. So that time MoneyTap plays a very important role. It's a very good product. I think the product, the way it is designed itself, I remember during early days, we had NDTV cover us, NDTV online. And the headline was, this company rejects 90% of the people who apply. And we had a discussion among ourselves. We were like, okay, is this a negative headline for us, or is this a positive? And then we had this discussion that no, it is actually positive, because it says that we are very selective, with the bank. We are not the ones who are giving the loan. We actually help the bank and partner with the bank to give. So the bank is extremely stringent. It does all the checks and balances which are required, even to get that credit line offered to you. So only if you are a customer with a good background, but in genuine need of that small amount of money, do you get through MoneyTap. So it is okay if 90% are rejected, because that's why the repayment on MoneyTap and the trust factor, the credibility on MoneyTap is way much higher than any other product in the market. So this took time to build this, this whole concept of, credit line. That's why we never call it loan. So I think those little nuances matter a lot when you're communicating to a wider set of audience.
It is really interesting, Akhila. And flowing from that, when we were talking earlier, you had mentioned that early stage founders are much more invested in their communication and messaging than perhaps any other kind of CEO and founder. So, what has been your experience with that?
I absolutely. I think most of the founders I have worked with are extremely clued in. They know that they need PR, and they know the objectives of PR. Why they need it. I think it's also because the marketing budgets are really, really less. One, so they can't really afford paid advertising at a very early stage. All the money they get in funding, they want to make good use of it, right, in product development or team expansion. So but at the same time, they want to get the word out. They want their initial customers in. They want to hire good people. It is difficult for early stage startups without a brand identity to hire good, technical people. So for all this, I think PR plays a very, very key role, and most of the founders understand this, and like you mentioned, most of the companies we work with are category creating. So there is a lot of education from the founder which needs to be done to their audience about the sector in which they are operating and their product. Yes, I have been very lucky to have worked with very senior and also junior founders who have, been instrumental in developing the PR strategy with us. So I mean, and it's seen in the brands, right? I mean, if you look at MFine, if you look at MyGate, you look at Hacker Earth, one of our first few companies. I think the coverage, the kind of stories which have come out, the relationship with the media and the journalists with the founders, I think it's phenomenal for such a early stage, startups.
And when we were talking earlier before the interview, it also mentioned that you actually get to see the ROI on the PR and communication work, and that is something I think all communicators struggle with. How do you prove impact? So, could you share with us how you're able to see the ROI on the communication work?
I think it's very simple, Parul. Then we don't use any high tech tools, right? Marketing budgets are less. We are not, most of the startups are not doing any advertising, paid advertising, whether it is on Google or Facebook. And at that time, if you do a PR campaign, a sustained PR campaign over 4 to 6 weeks, the amount of consumer signups, user signups, the interest in further follow-on funding, and the the ease with which the sales team can win a contract, and also the ease with which the business development team gets more hits. I think all this, we see a very remarkable increase once a PR campaign is done. People know us, people call us, founders get calls. There are other investors who introduce founders to new business leads. So all these start happening, the moment the PR is out, the moment the stories are out. And if when we sustain this over, say, 6 month period, I keep on using the word sustain because, to be honest, at Prime, we don't work with startups on a project basis at all. So we don't do one funding announcement and then forget about it. It's never done. So the minimum we work with founders or any startup is for 1 year, because it needs that amount of time to build that credibility and reputation and a mark in the market, if I may say so. So when you do this, like, from 4 to 6 weeks, we take it to 2 months. Then from 2 months, we take it to 4 and 6. Then by the end of 6 months, you do see where you were 6 months ago, right? How many users were there signed up and where you are right now. Even the quality of the leads which come in, right? They increase quite a bit. So yeah, I think the ROI is immediately seen. I wouldn't take the name of the startups, but I have had founders calling us after an article in Times of India and saying, one of the lead investors in India called them for a meeting. Now, whether that meeting resulted in funding or not is secondary, but the fact that they got a FaceTime and were able to tell their story at a very early stage in front of a very credible investor, I think that is ROI for us. So
Absolutely, that's a very big ROI actually. So, so following up from what we just discussed, there are some challenges to mainstream media coverage for early stage startups. Some of the leading business dailies may say that we do not cover early stage startups, or come back to us when Series A funding is over. So, have you faced problems like that, and how have you solved them?
okay, I think, we have to take a step back here and also think about what is PR for early stage startups, right? More often it coincides with the funding announcement. That's what people think, right? But, the less the announcement is about funding and more it is to do with a good story around, say, something unique about the team, something unique about the market, the origin of the startup itself, how it was started, or how all of it fits into a larger macro trend, right? The startup, if this comes together, irrespective of the funding amount, we have been able to get the interest of journalists in mainstream media. I think the key is probably not to beat too much around the funding. I mean, if you think of it, the funding is just 2 lines, right? Who you got funded and how much you got funded. I mean, why would a reporter write if a 1 million seed stage fund is given? I mean, every day you find companies being funded. But I think it's using the funding announcement as a vehicle to talk about macro trends, to talk about your team, and to talk about how your product is making a difference. I think that interests a lot of journalists, to be honest. So
That's a great insight. And at a personal level, I mean, just the list of companies we discussed in the opening, there are a wide range of sectors. How do you cope with the variety of subjects and sectors you have to handle?
uh, this again, no shortcut. We read a lot. We read a lot. We read a lot what happens in the US as well, in some of the early stage funds, their startups, how they are doing their publicity. That really helps us. That gives us ideas as well. We read about a lot of sectors. We Our partners help us a lot. Our investment team is about 5 to 6 people of diverse, uh, experience. And of course the founders. So we have something known as the founder check-in. So even before we take on a startup, right, we have a very long one-to-one session with the founders, with the team, sales team, marketing team, if they are there, if not just the founders, and also the partner who is on the board of that particular startup. And they give us a very in-depth picture about where the startup is, why we invested in, what the sector looks like in the next 4 to 5 years. I think all this helps us, one, to gauge whether these startups need PR in the next 6 to 12 months, because not all startups need PR immediately. Two, if they need, then what kind of campaigns do we need to run, starting from day one? And three, it also invariably gives us an insight into the sector in which they operate, whether it's education or SaaS or healthcare, whatever it may be. But yeah, it requires a lot of reading.
There's no shortcut to reading and being
No.
well informed, especially in
Yes,
today's world of having to offer context. So,
absolutely.
if you look at the post COVID stories about the investment trends in startups, there is a lot of evidence to show that actually India has done pretty well in terms of investments in the startup sector, whether it is from large funders to even to PE funds. They've kind of not really, India has not really lost out on startup funding. So flowing from that, what do you think are the large trends in the early stage startup community that communicators should take stock of when they're planning for 2021?
I think one of the factors why India hasn't, lost out is that the products which are coming in the market here are for India. People are building for India, right? There are a lot of macro issues which still need to be solved. For example, healthcare. No matter how many startups come together, right, we still, I mean, it's a country of more than 1 billion with very less healthcare facilities, very few number of doctors. So I think companies like mFine, enabling this access in the remotest of towns to doctors, etc. I think these ideas will always have a place in the society, for the users also and for the investors as well. um, so I think as a communicator, it is important to understand where India as a market is going, what are consumers looking for, right? How tier two, tier three towns are shaping up, how the how choices are changing in these markets for them. And I think these will give you a bit of idea about how to take your product to these levels. Like, for example, we pay a lot of attention to vernacular media. Most of our companies, we have a vernacular / regional media strategy for almost every startup of ours, even if it is a B2B startup, because there are decision makers, there are product users, even in tier two, tier three markets, where you find a very good fit. You get users from there, you get customers from there. So I think these sort of keeping a pulse on how, to me, tier two, tier three towns and people from those towns are working, and what their choices are and how they are spending their money, I think that will give us a lot of ideas about how to craft your communication strategy.
Thank you, Akila. That was a fantastically insightful interview, and I think a lot of tips for communicators who work on the startup sector. That was Akila Deshpande, the PR and marketing head of Prime Venture Partners. Thank you, Akila, for joining
Thank
us for
you.
this very first podcast of January 2021.
Thank you, Paddle.